This story begins on a beautiful morning, with a young boy being chased through the forest. A mother quickly pulls her child away from him. However, this boy is actually the hero of the story, named Saizu. At that moment, he senses someone approaching, and suddenly, an injured girl collapses in front of him, pleading for his help. Yet, Saizu pays her no special attention. Not long after, a group of bandits surrounds them, leaving Saizu no choice but to protect the girl. He lifts the girl onto his shoulder and draws his sword, instilling fear in the hearts of his enemies. One by one, he defeats them and successfully saves the girl. Afterward, he intends to leave, but as his stomach growls from the fight, the girl decides to stay with him. The girl tearfully begs Saizu not to abandon a defenseless girl alone in the forest. Although Saizu is indifferent, he eventually relents and takes her to safety. The girl introduces herself as Isanami. She begs Saizu to take her to Veda Castle, promising food in return. Along the way, Isanami appears so hungry that Saizu is taken aback. She even starts calling Saizu by a nickname, Sai-chan. However, Saizu, being a samurai, does not easily open up about himself. As they continue their journey, Saizu becomes suspicious when he notices the hair clip on Isanami's head. After a long journey, they arrive at Veda. On the way, however, they encounter a mysterious man who turns out to be Sasuke, the leader of the Sanada ninja clan. A debate ensues between the two, leading to a fight. Sasuke uses paralyzing plants to incapacitate Saizu. However, before things get worse, Isanami stops them, explaining that she is there to meet Sanada Yukimura. When they finally reach Oda Castle, Saizu is awed by its beauty. But the atmosphere grows tense as Sanada Yukimura enters the room, forcing them to bow. Isanami explains that she is a priestess from the Izumo shrine who fled after her shrine was destroyed. She asks Yukimura for help to protect her, but Yukimura sternly refuses, unwilling to take unnecessary risks. Isanami recalls how she survived the destruction of her shrine thanks to her teacher's sacrifice. Full of hope, she sought refuge in the castle but now faces the harsh reality that not everyone is willing to help her. Not wanting to impose, she avoids taking anything and isn't foolish enough to harm herself. After saying this, Yukimura leaves, disappointing Isanami. Saizu observes her situation, realizing that Yukimura's hope of asking for aid has crumbled. Isanami is the last girl from her town, now without hope. That night, Saizu heads to the forest, but Isanami secretly follows him. She insists on staying with him, but Saizu only wants to get rid of her, telling her to return to the castle. Stubbornly, Isanami lies down on the ground and says, "If I get eaten by wolves, it's your fault." Looking into her eyes, Saizu coldly replies, "Whether you die today or tomorrow, I don't care." Suddenly, bandits searching for Isanami appear and start binding them with chains. This time, they are stronger than before. Yukimura and Sasuke, who had followed them, also watch to see if the people they intend to help can save themselves. Saizu showcases his sword skills, defeating the enemies one by one. However, seeing them killed triggers a traumatic memory in Isanami, causing her body to turn dark. Suddenly, energy bursts from her hair clip, turning all the enemies into ash. When Saizu realizes this, Isanami returns to normal and clings to him. Playfully, Isanami jokes that from now on, she will protect him. Yet, she doesn't want Saizu to leave. When Saizu tries to leave angrily, Isanami reminds him of his kindness in once buying her noodles. At the castle, Rokaru and Yukimura discuss Isanami's abilities, which could be used to dominate the world. Yukimura plots a conspiracy involving Saizu, requiring legendary warriors to aid him. Saizu overhears this conversation but doesn't fully understand it. He has never truly trusted Yukimura. The next morning, Saizu finds Isanami and wraps her in a blanket. When Sasuke brings breakfast, Isanami looks delighted, but ninja attacks destroy the meal. Despite this, Isanami continues to follow Saizu, though he only wants to keep his distance. When the gates open, Isanami is excited about the upcoming festival. However, Saizu dismisses it as irrelevant and leaves alone. While walking, Saizu encounters a girl using ice techniques to attack him. The girl turns out to be Anna, his childhood friend. Anastasia reveals she has found a new master, Yukimura. Saizu is puzzled as to how someone as talented as Anastasia could choose Yukimura. Anastasia explains that she initially intended to kill him, but Yukimura persuaded her to join him. Isanami overheard their conversation and tried to step forward, but Yukimura stopped her. He asked Anastasia about the rumors of a giant snake at the border that could swallow humans and large animals. Yukimura was worried it might disrupt the festival, so he sent Sasuke to investigate. During the festival, Yukimura cheered along with everyone else, while Anastasia teased that Saizu might be jealous or afraid of her. On stage, Isanami gave a stunning performance, even though she seemed nervous. Her movements surprised everyone. However, Saizu left the festival, upsetting Isanami. She ran after him and hugged him, demanding an explanation for why he left her performance. Anastasia then told Saizu to stay at the festival while they dealt with the giant snake. Isanami, of course, insisted on going. Anastasia wisely chose to leave. It seemed like Isanami had seen something in the forest. When they arrived, there wasn't a single bird in sight, and the forest was eerily dark. Suddenly, Isanami started crying, sensing the danger of the giant snake. To protect her, Saizu carried Isanami, but the snake was far stronger, pinning Saizu down like a squeeze of sauce. With great effort, he used explosives to free himself. Saizu noticed from the snake's eyes that someone was controlling it. He targeted its eyes, destroying them, and afterward, they found themselves in a cave. Isanami commented that perhaps their bond had lasted through 7 lifetimes. She felt that Saizu was her light in the darkness. Since leaving Izumo, only one person had extended a hand to help her, and that was Saizu. Her heart raced whenever she saw him, but Saizu felt that he had always kept Isanami in the dark, never letting her see his light. Everything that had happened so far was a magical coincidence. Who would have thought Saizu would become a star in Isanami's eyes? Perhaps Isanami's upbringing was carefully guided by her parents, but she revealed she had been taken from Izumo Sharon and raised in a priest's home to study and become a priestess. However, that destruction had also taken her family. Now, her life was in Saizu's hands. That was when she noticed a hole where all the smoke was escaping. This hole was their last hope. Saizu unsheathed his sword and, as he said Svaha, the path opened. Elsewhere, the castle was also under attack, and they began asking about Isanami. Sasuke had also seen the giant snake. A girl standing there told him that if he tried to kill the snake, there would be a massive explosion that would destroy everything. The girl, Ukatsu, began fighting Sasuke. Ukatsu forced Sasuke to stagger as if he were fighting himself. Ukatsu's ally arrived, trying to save Sasu, but Sasuke didn't want help under any circumstances. He was ready to fight Ukatsu, but the forest creatures seemed to take her side. In the city, Isanami's condition worsened. Suddenly, an evil force called Tori Hanzo approached her. Isanami recognized Tori's eyes from somewhere before. When Saizu arrived to help her, Isanami warned him to stay alert. With his first attack, Saizu realized Hanzo's power, as Maru and Yako were also bound by Hanzo's men with iron wires. Rokaru created a sound of water to assist them and looked for a way to free the bonds, though he hadn't found one yet. Saizu then threw an iron bullet at Hanzo, but it was no match for Hanzo's sharp sword. Hanzo claimed that a ninja like him could never be hurt. Now it was Hanzo's turn, and he recited his next spell, Ogo Kashi, striking the ground and causing Saizu to collapse. Then, he made Isanami faint. However, Saizu didn't give up. Using Hanzo's own stone, he struck Hanzo in time. Sasuke arrived to help him. Realizing he was outmatched, Hanzo decided to flee. Later, at Yukimura's meeting, they discussed the events. Yukimura wanted Saizu to take Isanami to the village of Izumo, but Saizu suddenly called Yukimura a coward and weak. Hearing this, one of Yukimura's men, Kijol Jujo, was visibly enraged. Kiki-ai wanted to understand the reason for the attack on Izumo. He explained that Tagakawa didn't stop after destroying Izumo. He was searching for something from Sharon to the Peace Tomb. Yukimura planned to send Isanami back since she knew the place best. Hearing their discussion, Isanami entered and said she would go despite the danger, as long as Saizu was by her side. Sasuke showed Isanami an owl named Ikeya that would help her on the journey. When Yukimura was praised, Sasuke blushed like a new bride and ran away. He mentioned that Kikei would accompany them to Izumo. Kikei, having experienced much, was considered a valuable ally. Isanami, on the other hand, dreamed only of traveling with Saizu, but at the moment, she was furious. On their journey, Isanami walked so close to Saizu that Kikei couldn't help but scold her, saying her skimpy clothing and improper behavior were inappropriate. Isanami argued that Aina wore even smaller clothing, but as a ninja, it suited her. Still, Kikei didn't approve of her style. If not for Yukimura's orders, Kikei would have left right then. That night, Isanami insisted on bathing. They planned to take turns keeping watch overnight. Isanami once again acted inappropriately. Seeing everything that happened with Saizu, Kikei thought it was better to go blind than witness it. She apologized to Saizu, thinking they were married, but Saizu clarified that they were just friends with extra benefits. In Kikei's eyes, Isanami was still a bit naive, but she felt at ease around Saizu. That night, Kikei told stories about Yukimura's 10 warriors, including Sasuke, Rokaru, Anna, Saizu, and herself. Kikei wondered why Yukimura had included Anastasia, who was so fragile, among his brave warriors. The next day, they encountered a foreign girl whom they tried to help. They didn't think it was right to leave her alone there. When they reached a dangerous bridge, Kikei grew nervous due to her fear of heights. At that moment, the foreign girl, Yuri, took advantage of the situation and pulled Saizu away. Yuri turned out to be the leader of a group of thieves. When the time came, she revealed her true identity and ordered her subordinates to rob Isanami and do whatever they wanted to her. However, before they could act, Kikei defeated them one by one. Then Yuri stepped forward, drew her sword, and tried to stop them with her wind powers. As Saizu managed to free himself, Yuri cut all the bridge ropes, sending Saizu plunging into the ravine. Moments later, Saizu emerged from the water, and they quickly went to look for Anna. Isanami asked Yuri what she wanted besides money, but Yuri had already found a new toy. She knew how much Saizu cared for Isanami and wanted to see him suffer right in front of her. Yuri said that stealing valuable things was her hobby. When Isanami talked too much, Yuri struck her with a chain. Isanami was confident Saizu would come to save her soon, but Yuri argued that women who depended on men didn't deserve to live. When Saizu appeared, Yuri dangled Isanami over the edge of a cliff. Seeing this, Saizu summoned all his strength to climb up. Meanwhile, someone attacked Sasuke. It turned out to be Anna. Sasuke felt that even though he couldn't fully trust ninjas, he hoped they would return soon. Yuri noticed Saizu nearing them. She warned him and tried to scare him by hurting Anna, but before Saizu could act, Yuri pushed her down. Even so, Saizu didn't give up. Saizu finally climbed back up and began fighting Yuri, managing to wound her. Seeing the bloodlust in Saizu's eyes, Yuri wanted to prolong the fight. Saizu used one of his powerful attacks, breaking one of Yuri's bones along with her chain. Saizu emerged victorious, and a dying Yuri praised his skill. She had never seen anyone as strong and brave as Saizu. Her last wish was for him to end her suffering with a sword through her body. However, before Saizu could do so, Isanami stopped him, saying that attacking a defenseless person was not a sign of bravery. Saizu lowered his sword and carried Isanami away, ignoring Yuri's pleas for death. Later that night, Kikei tried to explain to Isanami that she shouldn't interfere like that and should value her life. Meanwhile, Rokaru was seen talking to someone about their plan, while a duplicate of some critical information fell into their hands. Saizu began to develop feelings for Isanami after all they had endured together. They were shown traveling to a ruined temple deep in the forest. It seemed Musashi, the god of the area, had abandoned his castle because of Yukimura. Kikei said they needed to investigate the area and split up to explore. Hearing this, Isanami ran off without listening to Saizu, who tried to stop her. The place held many memories for Anna, now reduced to ashes. It was where she used to dance and have fun with her friends. Saizu approached her again, confused about why Isanami seemed to distance herself despite their closeness. It seemed Isanami was still hoping someone was out there waiting for her, perhaps her child. Seeing the tears in Anastasia's eyes, Saizu wiped her face with his handkerchief, commenting that he hadn't come here to watch a drama. Rokaru also sensed a deeper plan behind Yukimura sending Isanami there, but refrained from discussing it further. Yukimura knew his plans would be disrupted again. But by whom? Then Isanami questioned why such destruction had only occurred in Izumo. That was the reason they came, to discover why this had happened here. Controlling her emotions, Isanami leaped into Saizu's arms, feeling safest with him. But suddenly, movement was heard nearby, and she tried to find evidence, but most of the town had burned to ashes. Only one pillar remained intact. Saizu climbed up and noticed designs on the floor resembling an yin-yang symbol. By moving some stones, they might reveal the full shape. Saizu's strength was no match for the stones, but Isanami knew something and wanted to try. She kicked the stones, activating them, and uncovered a hidden cave. Keikai had heard of this tunnel years ago, said to lead straight to heaven, but instead of ascending, the staircase led downward, possibly to hell. Saizu dismissed such superstitions. At the end of the stairs, they found a wall with unreadable inscriptions. But someone in the cave demanded something called Koshi Mitama from them, which was an ornament given to Isanami by her master to wear in her hair. If they didn't surrender it, things would turn bad for them. Saizu prepared for battle as they were surrounded on four sides by several women who tried to capture them. Isanami felt her body deteriorating, sensing the danger tied to the hair ornament. But Saizu remained focused on the enemies. To assist, Ukatsu arrived, attempting to trap Keikai in illusions. Saizu fought fiercely against a hammer-wielding enemy. The hammer inflicted severe injuries on Saizu, while Ukatsu's illusions began to break Keikai's concentration. Saizu gathered his remaining strength to stand. Before the hammer could strike again, a familiar gust of wind interrupted. It was Yuri, wanting to finish Saizu herself, but in a sudden counterattack, the hammer struck Yuri, causing her to fall. Upon recovering, Saizu demanded Yuri stay out of the fight. He prepared to face them both simultaneously, vowing to make them regret crossing him. Keikai noticed the barrier created by Ukatsu had shattered due to the wind and launched a counterattack. Before he could strike, Ukatsu restrained him from behind. But before she could act further, Keikai stabbed her in the stomach with a knife. As Yuri and the hammer wielder continued their fight, Saizu leapt between them and defeated the hammer wielder. Isanami felt guilty for everything that had gone wrong, knowing it was tied to her hairpin. Yet at least for now, they were safe. Suddenly, Masamu appeared, took her hairpin, and told her to go back home and inform her master that Lord Osuru had taken the Koshi Mitama. Saizu was unable to stop him. Masamu was Saizu's childhood friend, whose strength had inspired Saizu to become a skilled ninja. But one day, people treated him like a worthless object and discarded him. From that day on, Saizu swore that anyone who stood in his way would receive no mercy. Since then, Saizu has never trusted anyone. Keikai prepared a medicinal potion for Saizu, but he was more focused on his mission. After all, Keikai believed that, whether this mission failed or succeeded, reporting the outcome was the duty of a ninja. If Saizu wanted to leave, he could, and Keikai would promptly inform his master. Today's weather was very pleasant. Yukimura got information about Saizu from Sasuke. They hadn't reported anything yet because they might not have anything significant to share. Suddenly, a messenger delivered a report, and Yukimura got all the information he needed. After reading the report, Yukimura immediately assigned Anastasia and Sasuke to work. The poor Isanami was given food by a messenger who tried to get closer to her, but Isanami did not give a satisfying response. The messenger said that if she needed anything, she could speak freely. It felt like the food wasn't meant to be eaten, but to please someone. From that messenger, Mote Moss wanted to learn the secrets of Koshi Isanami. He revealed that years ago, humans were given the power of the gods, and one of the signs was the Koshi. If he could master it, he would overturn this world. To fulfill his desire, he was willing to go to any lengths, even if it triggered a great war. Mama would become a god, and rewrite the history of this land from the beginning. On their journey, Sasuke and Anastasia encountered several bandits, whom they both dealt with easily. Mito questioned why, if Mama only needed Sumo's hair, she took the entire girl. Although the reason wasn't very specific, she might need her later. After overcoming the bandits, Sasuke finally discovered Isanami's location, but he was only interested in Saizu and showed no concern for Isanami. Whatever happened in Edo and Izumo, he blamed himself. Anastasia was captured by villains who had malicious intentions toward her, but Anastasia had a plan. When they doused her with water, Anastasia used the water as a weapon to free herself. Anastasia then quickly assisted Sasuke in freeing Isanami and tried to explain things to her. Her innocence made her unique. Isanami was a brave warrior, and she needed to understand her responsibilities. There was no point in running away anymore because Yukimura had chosen her as the heir to his courage, and she could not crush his hopes. Slowly, Isanami began to understand his words, and finally, she stood up, thanking Sasuke and Ana. Sasuke said he wasn't afraid to kill himself and Saizu, so Isanami didn't need to hold back. Isanami was a great warrior, and she needed to realize this. After they arrived in Izumo, Saizu appeared with his companions. He felt embarrassed for not being able to report on time. Upon hearing Saizu's name, Isanami ran towards him, overjoyed to see him safe. Saizu wanted to take a bath for a moment. Yukimura brought Yuri with him and said that he wouldn't allow her to fight against Saizu, but Yuri made the mistake of attacking him, which was quickly stopped by Rokuro. Yukimura said they should attack while keeping the peace. Waiting for the prey to come closer was the nature of a hunter. Hearing this, Shuri began to praise him. Yukimura allowed her to stay there for a while. While Saizu rested, Isanami spoke from outside, saying that if he needed anything, he could ask without hesitation. She tried to tell Saizu about her changes, but Saizu left the room and went for a walk outside, then slept on the roof. Mama Shuki and her face continued to bother him. Amid all this, Sasuke appeared and pushed him into the water below, saying that he couldn't be a coward like this. Saizu was responsible for not being able to save Isanami from the kidnapping. Saizu had no desire to be a hero, and he didn't need to be one. He just needed to admit that he was weak and a coward, but Sasuke knew that Saizu was so weak that he couldn't admit it. Sasuke then jumped in and attacked him, saying that Saizu would never understand. Seeing him lying on the ground, Sasuke extended his hand and said that he could only be strong for others. At that moment, Isanami continued to watch them closely. Then Yukimura clapped for them because it was the first time he saw Sasuke speak so much. Seeing that, Sasuke felt embarrassed and quickly left. Yukimura spoke with Saizu, saying that he knew Sanada had also witnessed everything. He came out and hugged Saizu. Meanwhile, Mama was uneasy because Isanami had disappeared, suspecting that this was the work of a powerful man, none other than Sanada Yukimura. Together with the others, Isanami arrived at a cave where there was a stone with writings she couldn't read. Saizu didn't remember anything either, so Rokuro tried to read the script with his sharp eyes. He absorbed all of Saizu's memories and accurately depicted them on paper. It seemed Yukimura had found what he needed, so he ordered everyone to leave. No one knew about Rokuro's sharp eyes except Yukimura, and he didn't want to tell anyone. It was unclear whether Saizu's arrival was a blessing or a curse for them. At night, Sasuke once again tried to attack Saizu. The next morning, they found Yukimura missing from his room. It looked like there had been a fight there. As everyone panicked, Sasuke arrived and informed them that the two of them went to the forest, leaving a note saying Yukimura wanted to bathe in the spring. He also wrote that if anyone wanted to speak with him privately, they should follow the map provided. Hearing this news, Isanami was very excited, but Saizu didn't understand how a noble could leave his room in such disarray. Leaving everything behind, Saizu went to the market. Meanwhile, Isanami was participating in an eating competition when suddenly Keiki appeared before Saizu, thrown by a large, strong man. A man who claimed to be a great follower of Buddha believed that everyone should become a follower of Buddha. At that moment, he was hungry and had no money. Saizu said he was sure the man had only eaten free food all his life. In reality, he was looking for his younger sister named Miyoshi Sakai. Saizu said he didn't know where his sister was, so the man should continue his journey. Hearing that, the man left. Saizu couldn't just let that fool go. He said that the man must work and pay for the food he ate and make up for the damage he had caused. Saikai has a naive way of thinking, but he possesses the physical strength of 10 men. Saikai taunts Saizu by calling him weak, which makes Saizu angry, leading him to pull out his pistol. However, Saikai moves closer and bends Saizu's pistol as if he were bending a tin can. He then delivers a hard punch that overwhelms Saizu. When Saizu tries to fight back, Saikai gets furious, draws his weapon, and declares that he will defeat Saizu with the power of Buddha. Saizu ends up unconscious, and his beloved pistol is broken. Seeing Saizu fighting, Yuri arrives at the scene, which only angers Saikai further. He binds Yuri with chains and starts toying with her. Then Sasuke attacks Saikai, and Saikai takes it as a challenge that requires divine help. Saizu feels anxious, hoping for assistance to arrive soon. If they don't act quickly, the building might collapse. Eventually, they manage to push Saikai out of the crowd as Morari and Koro are also halted. Yuri and the others strike at Saikai, but none of the attacks are effective. Sasuke barely manages to save himself. Saizu tries to find a strategy to defeat Saikai, but suddenly, a woman named Isanami appears, carrying a lot of food. Saikai seems to recognize Isanami and becomes emotional, claiming that she is his sister, even though Isanami does not recognize him. Saizu can't interfere because they don't seem like siblings. Saikai gives Isanami food, while Saizu tries to convince Isanami to accept Saikai as her brother so he would stop attacking others. Isanami, who is treated like a little sister by Saikai, scolds him and orders him to repair the damage he has done. Hearing this, Saikai immediately gets to work. In the afternoon, Saikai reveals that he and Isanami are not blood-related siblings, but they grew up together. When Saikai was 8 years old, he met Isanami by the riverbank. At the age of 15, he left home to seek spiritual enlightenment, eventually realizing that all gods are one. The greater the faith in God, the smaller the problems he faced. When Saikai sees a hairpin that belongs to Isanami, he recalls something, though it's not clear what. When Saikai shows a picture of himself at 15, Isanami starts to remember something. Yukimura decides to invite Saikai along, but some of his friends don't like the decision. That night, everyone gathers in Yukimura's private hall for a grand feast. Saikai is very excited because he finally gets to take a bath after 6 months. Yuri accidentally enters the room but doesn't seem interested. Perhaps Yukimura wants everyone to enjoy the party together. When asked, Saizu talks about an old friend he hasn't seen in a long time. That friend went around the world repairing his sword. Saizu knows that his friend is a samurai and can take care of himself. Yukimura also understands that he can't hold back his rebellious student forever. During dinner, Saizu finds a hare in his food and sees Sasuke outside in the pond with his pets. Saizu yells, and Sasuke responds that Yukimura himself gave him permission. Isanami notices that the scars on her body have disappeared. She approaches Anastasia and compares their bodies. She starts to wonder why there is such a big difference between the two girls and wants to know Anna's beauty secret. She wants to have a beautiful body like Anna's. At that moment, Yukimura appears from behind and starts teasing her, but Saikai steps in immediately. Anastasia then freezes them both, while Yuri feels frustrated because every time she tries to get revenge on Saizu, something interrupts. When Saizu touches Yuri, he notices that Yuri's body is very cold and her legs are trembling. Seeing this, Yuri vows that she will get her revenge someday. When Sasuke arrives looking for Amar, he finds them with Yuri. Yuri tells Sasuke that she has always considered Saizu her enemy, but when Saizu touched her today, something changed. Yuri still wants revenge, but it seems she is also starting to like Saizu. Suddenly, she remembers that Sasuke came to fetch his pet. That night, Yukimura shows Yaku an invitation to a tea ceremony, inviting her to join. The next day, Yukimura decides to take Roko, Saizu, and Isanami to the capital. The rest will stay behind and wait for them. As they leave, Yukimura tries to flirt with Anna, but stops when he sees Saizu. Yuri also wants to go with Saizu to settle her grudge, but everyone moves on without acknowledging her. Isanami sits on Saizu's lap as they continue their journey. Yukimura seems to be enjoying the trip, although he imagines that Anastasia will cry without him, which is just his fantasy. Yukimura mentions that Maeda, Mori, Ugi, Ida, and Mitsuri will attend the ceremony, but he himself must meet with Osho and Musa. On the other hand, Masamune is attending 3 ceremonies in a different style this time, which could harm his reputation as a leader. For Benimaru, it's not a good idea, but in reality, Masamune is changing his attitude, especially towards Yukimura, who holds Kusum TSA. Masamune has a new plan for attending the tea ceremony and wants to meet Yukimura soon. As Yukimura and his friends continue their journey, a small child approaches them, saying that the road ahead is closed. He suggests they take a route through the mountains. The child looks cute and kind, so they give him a lollipop. However, Saizu starts to suspect the child because he smells gunpowder on his clothes. They continue their journey but remain cautious. Elsewhere, Isanami is sleeping, and Saizu complains that Isanami can't control her impulses, which makes him dislike her. When Yukimura mentions Anastasia again, Roko asks why he only brought the 3 of them, given that he's so close to the women. Even Saizu begins to think of Yukimura as a playboy. In the middle of their discussion, there's a sudden explosion, causing their horses to panic, and danger begins to arise. However, they are saved just in time by Saikai. One of the horses carried Isanami uncontrollably, almost causing her to fall into a pit full of spears, but Saizu managed to stop it. However, several bombs were seen approaching them, which were halted by a strong gust of wind, the result of Yuri's power. The child reappeared and confessed that he had set the trap to test them, as he wanted to become a samurai and needed a strong teacher. The boy claimed to be an expert in explosives. Saizu scolded the boy, but Yukimura was intrigued by his great spirit at such a young age. The boy introduced himself as Rokoaro, which created some confusion because there was already a Rokoaro among them. In the end, Yukimura gave him the name Benimaru, his childhood name. As his teacher, Yukimura ordered Benimaru to wait there until they returned. Yukimura continued his journey with Yuri, while Benimaru and the others stayed behind. They passed through the capital's market before reaching Ikamaru and Nayako. Along the way, Yukimura reminded them that weapons were forbidden in the capital, and they should avoid fighting unless absolutely necessary. In the market, Isanami was busy shopping, while Maki and Ikamaru watched them. Enemy followers seemed ready to attack, but they remembered the weapon ban. Meanwhile, the lords arriving for the tea ceremony began to gather. Lord Mozambi arrived late with his followers and asked Masamune to sit near Yukimura. However, Masamune drew his sword, even though weapons were forbidden. He wanted to demonstrate something, but in truth, he sought to challenge Yukimura. Refusing a duel would damage his honor, so Yukimura agreed to fight with the help of a fan. Once the fight began, Musashi attacked like an old enemy. Masamune intended to disable Yukimura with the tip of his sword. In the midst of the chaos, Yukimura seemed like a fool, as his speed was far inferior to Masamune's. When Yukimura fell to the ground, he used his foot to stop Masamune and, with this trick, directed Masamune's sword to his own face. Everyone laughed at Yukimura's childish antics. Yukimura admitted that Masamune's strategy had frightened him, but he was too tired to fight seriously and decided to relax with a drink. In the afternoon, Kinema told Tsunari that Yukimura's trick might have angered Masamune even more, but Yukimura's way of enduring was admirable. Shortly after, news reached Yukimura that he had to attend a meeting at Fishmill urgently. If he did not attend, the consequences could be dire. Tsunari was worried that if the entire Takagawa faction turned against Yukimura, he would be isolated. However, Yukimura said he would ignore all of it. Masamune, after observing Yukimura's movements, became more excited. Although Yukimura's face showed tension, his eyes shone with courage. Masamune realized that Yukimura was craftier than he appeared. Masamune's followers informed him that Kitsune was currently in the same city. That night, there were reports that Yukimura had escaped with his group. The entire city went into chaos searching for them. Yukimura also took Yuri and Saikai with him, ensuring that no one could touch them. That night, Lord Lias blamed Masamune for Yukimura's escape. If Masamune had not acted recklessly, the Takagawa would not have faced such embarrassment. Lord Lias gave Masamune the responsibility to capture Yukimura. While traveling, Yukimura's comrades asked why he had suddenly fled. Yukimura answered that Lias did not appreciate his performance, which disappointed him. Soon after, some guards spotted them and began to pursue. Yukimura ordered Yuri and Saizu to move forward, but before they could act, an explosive attack struck the enemy. It was Benimaru, an ally who had been waiting for Yukimura's arrival. Everyone cheered for Benimaru, but the sound of explosions attracted other enemies. Yukimura decided to flee into the forest. Along the way, they stopped to rest. Yukimura sent Saizu to scout ahead. Saizu returned with bad news that Lord Lias had placed guards everywhere, making escape nearly impossible. If they continued forward, they would reach Lake Biwa. Kuroko believed the enemy was devising a strategy to take down Yukimura. On the other hand, Yukimura already had a group of warriors ready to fight. When Masamune finally found Yukimura, he claimed he had come to reclaim what was stolen. Yukimura firmly stated that the treasure was not meant for Masamune. Masamune summoned his troops, and Yukimura's group also prepared to battle. Yuri easily defeated the enemy with her powers, while Saikai used cunning strategies to distract the foes. Benimaru also seized the opportunity to shine, bravely facing the gang of villains. At the lake's edge, Saizu drew his IGA sword, displaying deadly skills that left everyone silent. Saizu was determined to protect Yukimura, even if it meant sacrificing himself. However, Masamune had other plans. A large warship approached them from behind, led by Kiki-ai. Although known as a ruthless killer, this time Kiki-ai saved Yukimura and his group, bringing them aboard the ship. On the ship, one of Kiki-ai's companions seemed interested in Yuri. However, Yuri's masculine demeanor made the man think twice. Yukimura thanked Kiki-ai for his help. Name noticed a large black panther appearing near the ship, making the atmosphere even tenser. Without any hostility, he approached and said, "This big cat is so cute." Jinpachi thought that there must be many beautiful girls in Takimura's team. At that moment, Isanami overheard their conversation and declared herself a beautiful girl. However, Jinpachi was not interested in a weak girl and insulted Isanami to her face. But Sakai, who could not bear to hear a word against his sister, grabbed his staff angrily, approached Jinpachi, and attacked. However, Jinpachi, being experienced, was always alert. With a single blow, he knocked Sakai down, leaving him on the spot. Jinpachi did not like it when someone caused a scene on his ship. He called Yukimura's group a bunch of clowns, and decided to test them one by one before allowing them on board. Saizu was fully prepared for any test. When he picked up a drum and threw it at Jinpachi, Saizu's sword immediately sliced the drum into pieces. It turned out that the drum was filled with wine. He had deliberately done it so everyone could enjoy the delicious wine. Seeing the abundance of wine, everyone became very excited. Without Maru, that day felt like tasting the nectar of the gods. However, Saizu scolded him and told him to step aside. At Wada Castle, Sasuke and Anastasia were worried about what would happen if they faced danger. Sasuke reassured Anastasia that nothing would happen as long as he was there. Yuri was delighted to hear the stories of Yukimura's legendary bravery from Jinpachi's friends. However, for Roko, drinking wine from a bowl felt a bit strange. Meanwhile, Saikai was still lying unconscious, and Isanami was more concerned about her food than anything else. Finally, they realized that the large cat was actually a panther. Isanami even gave it a new name. When Saizu, who was almost beaten, was seen, someone approached and said that a ninja shouldn't drink. But Saizu had trained his body to be immune to alcohol and poison. He also wanted to know why Kakoi was on this ship and why he hadn't returned. It turned out that Kakoi was traveling the world looking for a special weapon. When he heard about the pirate Jinpachi, who possessed imported weapons, he approached him. Jinpachi gave him the weapon he wanted, but on the condition that Kakoi had to work for him for a few days. Kakoi asked Saizu about the people chasing him, but Saizu didn't know much. Yukimura could explain it better. At that moment, a drunken Yuri approached them, hugged Saizu, and began to bother Kakoi. Jinpachi still couldn't believe that Yukimura was a warlord. To him, Yukimura looked like an ordinary person. He asked Yukimura what was on his mind when he was surrounded by enemies. Confidently, Yukimura replied that he felt calm because he had his warriors with him. Jinpachi couldn't tell if Yukimura was wise or foolish. Jinpachi said that Yukimura had to answer all his questions because while he was on this ship, he was under Jinpachi's domain, a domain without boundaries. The life of a pirate was full of freedom and fun. He also said that the weak were always beneath those who were free. Yukimura answered that his heart was like a free bird. But Jinpachi wanted to know how Yukimura paid his warriors when he himself had no home or food. Yukimura explained that his warriors were with him of their own free will. That night, Yukimura overheard Isanami telling Isanami that she was looking for a place like this.